Macros and math, baby. We are about to get shredded with statistics. And so, as you guys know, man, you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I'm a big fan of tracking your macros. I'm a big fan of harvesting that data on yourself. Well, I'm a big fan of doing that so you can make progress in the here and now. But another thing that kind of dawned on me not too long ago was, being a math guy and a stats guy at heart, I thought, I have all these data. Why don't I run these through some statistical models like a regression to get a better idea how my metabolism works? So we're going to take macros, we're going to take math, we're going to squish them together so that I can figure out how my metabolism works. And you can do the same thing if you have all these data on yourself. So here's what I did. I went back to last season's bodybuilding cycles. I had basically, about a 15, 16 week period of time where the data was super clean, man. Like I tracked every single thing that went into my body. And then I ran those whatevers. I ran those guys through a regression. A regression is basically where you have some variable that you think can be predicted by other variables. So I wanted to measure my daily body weight and the body weight changes. How important are things like calories and protein and carbs and fats? So you guys know, man, that I'm a big proponent that calories are the primary driver. So I thought, let's put it to the test and let's put it into a regression and let's see what we find. Well, I've got the results right here. And so the first thing I did is I looked at the daily numbers. So I looked at daily calories, how predictive that was of the next day's body weight number. And here's what I found. In statistics, there are things called p-values, and this guy had a p-value of 0. That basically meant that there was a 100% chance that this had a significant impact on my body weight. And in this case, it was a positive impact. Now, I don't care so much about the number of that coefficient per se, because it's never going to work out, that cleanly. But the fact that it's positive, that makes a lot of sense, man. When I eat more calories, my body weight goes up. When I eat fewer calories, my body weight goes down. Now, that might seem simple, and it might seem obvious to you, and it is to me too, but I think it's super powerful, man, because I think people just try to overcomplicate this whole thing, but I don't want to go off on that tangent because we may never return. Let's stay focused on the task at hand, because I ran more regressions. I said, all right, so there's calories. That's not super surprising. But I also looked at the daily numbers, and I put my protein, carbs, and fats in as the predictor or independent variables in the regression. And here's what I found. My protein, the p-value was 0.36, which meant that it really had no impact on my daily body weight changes. The coefficient was negative, but that doesn't mean anything because the p-value suggested that this was insignificant. My carbs, surprisingly, very insignificant. Yes, the coefficient was negative, which is also, it doesn't really matter because the p-value is negative. So my body and carbohydrates, BFFs. Now, it might not be quite, that intimate of a relationship, but that's pretty interesting, especially when I look at the next piece of information, which is my fats. So my fats had a strongly positive impact on my daily body weight. Strongly positive. I think it was almost as positive or about equally as positive to the caloric impact. Now, these both have p-values of 0.00, but when you go out to like the 5th or 6th or 7th decimal point, right, one was maybe a little stronger than the other. And when you start getting into t-statistics and all this stuff, I wanted to keep this kind of simple. So I'm not, for those of you guys with a statistics degree and some statistics understanding, I'm glossing over a lot of stuff here, man. But I really want to make this palatable for kind of the average person. My body and fats, it's not that they don't get along, but this is really powerful for me to understand in terms of how my body processes different macros. And I actually did the same thing. And what I did this time, I ran the same 2 regressions, but I wanted to look at 3-day averages, because I've learned that on a day-to-day basis, your body can kind of do anything, right? Like day-to-day, it's really interesting, especially when you're carb cycling, which I was doing throughout this whole data set. And so I wanted to know, all right, in 3-day buckets, what does this look like? And the results were almost virtually the same. The protein had a slightly larger impact, still insignificant, but maybe a little bit more of an impact to the negative side. Meaning when I eat more protein, my body weight tends to go down, although not necessarily indistinguishable from zero in a statistical sense. Carbs still had no impact, less of an impact than it had on a daily basis, which is super interesting to me because I noticed when I was carb cycling, and those of you guys that also carb cycle, you may notice this too, that sometimes your body does super weird stuff, man. Like you drive the carbs like super low, and the next day you don't lose any weight or you gain weight. And then you've got a high day coming up where you just shovel down all these carbs into your body and you lose weight. And it's super, super weird and sometimes very confusing. But now I kind of have a better idea for how my body might process these different macros. And again, fats had an incredibly significant impact on my metabolism. So what am I going to do with this? Well, it's really cool to know and it's really cool to understand. But for me, it's actually more than that. Like I'm using these results in my nutritional approach right now. I am using these results to make the little cleanup cut that I'm a few weeks into now even more effective. Because I now know that when it comes time to cut, it's more valuable for me to cut fats than cut carbs. Which is not only cool to know and will make it more effective, but in some ways that's going to make it easier. Because this is motivating me to think I might be able to keep more carbs in my diet if I keep my fat numbers in check. Now, the sad part about that is things like, peanut butter and almond butter. I mean, those things are going to have to get rationed significantly, which for me, that's very, very sad indeed. But this is cool, man, and I'm kind of just getting started with this, but this was kind of a major thing that I wanted to do, and this is something I'm thinking I might start doing with my athletes too, because a lot of them do track macros, and so we are collecting data on them too, and this is cool, man, because everybody's metabolism is different. It's unique to you, but if you are tracking the macros themselves, you already have all the inputs necessary to do something like this for yourself, for your own situation, and to make it that much more effective and efficient. So hey man, I hope this was helpful for you guys in some way, shape, or form. Hit me up on YouTube, hit me up on LinkedIn, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on Facebook, hit me up on the podcast, hit me up across the board, and yeah man, we'll see you guys on the flip side.